Let me ask you a question. Do you know the first country to abolish slavery in Americas? The answer might surprise you. It's Haiti. We as Group 13 will be presenting Haiti, considering 7 different topics. Miguel Gurchian will be talking about historical background and demography. The others will be discussing value orientations. We'll give 2 Clarkon examples and compare it to Georgia. Do media analysis, talk about education, business, and interpersonal communication in Haiti. Haiti is located in the Caribbean and it occupies the western part of the island Hispaniola, and the eastern part of the island belongs to the Dominican Republic. Firstly, the whole island was under the control of Spain. Then it was ceded to France, and the colony was named Saint-Domingue. And soon enough, it grew to be the wealthiest colony in the entire world, as it was producing 40% of sugar and 60% of coffee that was imported to Europe. One of the most important things in the history of Haiti is revolt that continued from 1791 to 1804, when enslaved people of Saint-Domingue fought against French to gain freedom and independence. And under the leadership of Saint Louverture, they were successfully able to stop the attacks of Spanish and English troops, as they were also interested in taking over the island. Eventually, unfortunately, Toussaint Louverture was captured by French forces. However, in the end, people of the island still won, and Jesquis Dessalines on January 1, 1804 announced a new country to the whole world, and it was Haiti. Toussaint Louverture is one of the most important figures in the history of Haiti. He was a former slave who managed to lead people to victory and also inspired millions of others around the Atlantic to fight for their freedom and equality. In the modern history of Haiti, one of the most important things is the earthquake of 2010, where, according to Britannica, about 1/3 of the country was affected from this earthquake, and it left the country in devastating condition, and as it needed the biggest humanitarian help in the history of the world. A few words about demographics. There are over 11 million people living in the country. There are 2 official languages. These are Haitian Creole and French. There are also many other Haitians around the world because of the tough political and economical situation in the country. They migrate to other countries where they feel themselves safer. Thank you very much.
When discussing Haitian culture and history, it is important to mention the value orientations of Haiti people. In our book, Intercultural Communication in Context, we have a list of values suggested by Clarkhorn and Strodbeck. As mentioned in an article on Every Culture website, the main values Haiti believe in are hospitality, friendliness, and respect for elders, as well as being expressive and helpful to each other. The culture of Haiti revolves around people being very religious, working on their spiritual growth. Besides spiritual growth, people also emphasize on action. They work hard and for themselves and for the community. An article on the World Vision webpage describes an earthquake that hit Haiti in 2010. It devastated Haiti, but thanks to the people staying true to their values and group-oriented ideals, they managed to recover from it.
In 1984, social psychologist Kurt Hofstede and his colleagues inspected value differences among national societies and demonstrated extended version of up-mentioned Clarkon's and Stolberg's work. Different from then, Hofstede examined value differences among national societies and determined 5 areas of common problems. Those are individualism versus collectivism, power distance, femininity versus masculinity, uncertainty avoidance, and long-term versus short-term orientation. transition. This process revealed that issues were shared by various cultural groups and the problem solving was different depending on their culture. The gender dynamic in Haiti has long been a source of contention. That's why I would like to move on masculinity versus femininity value discussion. The value of masculinity and femininity is two-dimensional. It refers to the degree which cultural groups prioritize so-called masculine values or so-called feminine values, as well as the degree to which gender-specific roles are appreciated. In Haiti, masculinity has always seen as superior by law and tradition, while femininity has been dehumanized and pushed into constantly hidden positionally, burdened by both economic and social obligations. As a result, Haitian women have to face inequality that comes with it. Hence, Haiti is more gender-specific country. Almost the same situation is in Georgia. Our country is gender-specific as well. 85% of Georgian women say that women have to overcome more obstacles in their career than men. And 48% of Georgians believe that women's main duty is to take care of their family rather than to seek a professional career. Because Haitian people have a strong sense of believing Christianity, the next value orientation I will refer to is Auschwitz's fifth dimension, long-term versus short-term orientation, because it reflects a society's search for virtue or trust. The difference between long-term and short-term orientation is that long-term orientation emphasizes virtue when the short-term orientation emphasizes trust. As already mentioned, Haitian people have strong sense of belief in Christianity. There are pictures of Jesus all over and most Haitians say that they believe in him. This is one of the examples why Haitians has long-term orientation. Another example is that the people of this country show great respect for their traditions and heritage of their ancestors. Georgian people share the same long-term orientation. 83.4% of Georgian population identified themselves as Eastern Orthodox Christians. Georgian people show great respect for their tradition and the heritage of their ancestors as well.
To briefly continue with Haiti's media analysis, we should start discussing Haiti's musical culture. As expected, Haiti has some wonderful pieces of media which shows that Creole culture can potentially earn its place as one of the most diverse cultures. Haitian music is full of drumming, jazz, and classic Afro music. According to Restavek Freedom Association of Haiti, Western Catholicism began to strongly influence Haitian culture. So, one of the most widespread types of music in Haiti is religious gospel music, which integrates the values of Voodoo, Catholic, and mixed religion groups. One of the most popular pieces of music that we mentioned is performed by Deborah Henry Stahl, and it features all the characteristics of Haitian gospel music. The music video specifically features main singer dressed in the bright and colorful dresses, further replaced by white clothing similar to the ones that we see in religious ceremonies. The white color and natural background clearly implies peace and love of religion. Furthermore, every single emotion that is portrayed in the music is somehow related to the love of God and can also act as a strong message of Haiti's repetitive struggles for the past decades. Hence, this piece really shows Haiti's emotional and social background. To further continue with second piece of media, which is the Envelope dances, we have to again mention that it is full of emotion and history, still interlacing with the Haiti's religious background. The dances are based just as music on African and French traditions, incorporating Haitian Voodoo religion. According to McFarland's research in 2017, in traditional Voodoo religion, it is believed that gods themselves inspire the unique dance movements, and the dances themselves are aggressive yet life-celebrating. The Yanvalo dance to Haitians carries a similar cultural meaning as the music does, and Yanvalo is existentially and ideologically focused on its religious meaning. The dances are a cultural message as a general that symbolizes the stages of their lives and also the healing processes of Haiti as a nation. Just with the music and dance, Haiti shows that it is full of vast and undiscovered blends of traditions.
Haiti faces both supply and demand challenges in education. On the supply side, there are not enough spaces for children to enroll in school. On the demand side, the average cost of $80 in tuition per child per year before books, uniforms, and transportation puts basic education unaffordable for many. The school system is dominated by the non-public sector, whether for-profit, faith-based, or run by non-governmental organizations. More than 80% of primary schools are non-public, enrolling more than 80% of all primary school children. Children cannot go to school if their parents cannot afford the fees. Haiti's government has put access to quality education at the top of its policy agenda. Attending school doesn't guarantee a quality education. A high quality education gives children the skills to grow into productive members of their communities and is essential for social and economic development of a country. Schools in Haiti are often overcrowded and generally do not have the resources to provide a good education. Overcrowded classrooms, unattained teachers, and lack of supplies. While comparing the Haitian education system to the Georgian one, it is very easy to differentiate two very similar but at the same time evolved education systems. Those two countries do share similar primary, secondary, and high school systems, but it is mentionable that Georgian one is much more developed, advanced, and it is mostly free for its citizens to attend this school. Even more, since Georgia has lots of connections to European universities, every year more and more students are being sent to foreign countries to get an excellent education. Meanwhile, the opportunity to attend school in Haiti may be limited, but the desire for the education is strong. Parents want the best for their children, but when there is only enough money to provide basic needs for your family or pay a child's tuition, parents have a little choice. The desire is there, they just need the opportunity.
Haiti is the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Its population is mostly dependent upon agriculture, farming, fishing, and principal revenue source is mild Arabic coffee. However, all of them are still subject to natural disasters. Recently, business services have improved. They collaborate with international investors, mostly those from the United States. As in Georgian culture, informal communication is vital in business relationships in Haiti. Meetings at restaurants are accepted with meals and alcoholic beverages, so business is addressed just as regularly in restaurants or hotels as in workplaces. Moreover, timelines in both countries are not guaranteed. Despite challenges, there are still opportunities in Haitian market. Infrastructure such as roads, airports, housing, telecommunications, and energy have best prospects for significant projects.
Now I'm going to continue with interpersonal communication. In general, interpersonal relationships are the connection or interaction between people, and in that regard, Haitian culture is fascinating. Their culture is a high context culture, and they're using both direct and indirect communication styles. And I'm going to emphasize some key characteristics of it. Well, in conversations, Haitians are often similar to Georgians. Their conversations are often very loud and very expressive, and it also can be described as very animated. Also, they're often changing their tone to express some emotions like happiness or disappointment or so, but that's very common. That's common in other cultures too. So, yeah. And the silence in Haitian culture is signaled for the negative traits like disapproval, disappointments, or even disagreement. Also, they're often using non-verbal communication styles, and they frequently use some hand gestures. Let's continue. Yeah, another important point is touching. They frequently using it both in formal and informal conversations, and they're touching their friends and family to express their appreciation or so. And in that point, they tend to not appreciate personal space much, but it is very important in other cultures. So personal space is very important in other cultures. Well, also they're using some facial expressions, as you can see in that picture. They do exactly the same. They roll up their eyes, fold their arms, look up to express disapproval. Yeah. Well, that was all from our group, and thank you very much for your attention. Bye.